What's going on, guys? My name is Mohammed, the host of Alpha, as most of you guys know. And I just want to say, I'm so grateful for the listeners, everyone that listens to the podcast, the feedback that I get through email, Instagram. And as a lot of you guys know, that I made the commitment that I'm going to start bringing a lot of guests onto the show. And when I'm choosing these guests, it was kind of a situation where I was like I wanted to know, like I didn't want to just bring the guests with the most followers on Instagram, and like the goal was to grow the podcast. As most of you guys know, listening to the podcast, is that my intentions are for you to truly get good information and for entertainment purposes, but at the same time to be able to take this information and learn something from it. So when I started to reaching out to guests, these first 10, 20 guests that I'm bringing onto the show are individuals that I have learned from these last couple of years as I'm in the midst of my own transformation, you can call it. And I've learned from them. I have used their energies to create a safe space for myself in a way, and continuously communicating with them and asking them questions if I had questions, and kind of learning from them. So today's guest, it's someone that I look up to very much. She's been actually a very safe space for me this last 2 years as I've been figuring myself out, as I've been, getting in touch with my own triggers and how to, solve and resolve these things. And I guess the best way to say is becoming my most masculine self and understanding feminine energy and masculine energy and how to really integrate these into my own healing. So today's guest, she goes by the name of Amyann. She's a Tantric Initiatrix, and she's got many, many other talents and skills that I believe. And I'm excited to have her on the show and truly ask her questions and really dive deep into her mind, and just curious to learn more from her. And I know that the questions and the things that I share and ask her, you guys are only going to take a lot of value from, and also truly implement some of the information she shares into your daily, day-to-day life. So welcome to the show, Amyann.
Thank you so much for having me, Mohammed.
It's a pleasure. So one of the first things that I want to kind of just get into it. What's your definition of, first of all, what's your definition of sexual energy? And then what's your definition of what is masculine and feminine energy mean to you?
Okay, beautiful. So my definition of sexual energy is creative life force energy that tends to be stored and awoken and moved from the lower regions of our being, from our genitals, from our anus, from our perineum, and then also from like the lower dantian in Chinese medicine, kidneys, like a lot of these lower digestive organs as well are connected to this sexual energy, but it's not just located there. That's where a lot of it is stored and can be created, but our entire being is made up of sexual energy because that's how we came into this reality through sex, or
That's
through
true.
the union of sperm and egg. Even if there wasn't physical sex, there was that sacred divine union that created a new thing. So yeah, it's really this creative life force energy
I love it.
births new worlds into being potentially.
I love that. And the way you explained it is, so for me, one of the things that I work with men is really helping them become aware of their sexual energy, because, we live in a world, and myself, I'm a testimonial of this, is, growing up in my teens and my early 20s, I was only releasing the sexual energy through sex and very low surface level sex. And once I discovered the power of my own sexual energy and how I was able to really achieve my goals and my desires, whether it was having a six-pack or making $10,000 a month or having, a beautiful relationship with a woman, my sexual energy was one of the first things that I discovered, that there was a lot of power within it. And if I can learn to kind of transmute this energy and kind of work with it, a lot of amazing things can happen. So my next question was actually, so we're going to talk more about this, but I just wanted, because I asked you, so what's your opinion, or what are your thoughts of what is masculine and feminine energy? Like, how would you describe that to someone?
So to me, at this moment in my life, I experience masculine energy as more solar, related to solar energy, which to me is active, it is giving, it is penetrative, it is focused, nourishing, feeding, like just like it's electric and it ignites and it's passionate and so pure, like that. Yeah. To me, it's also cosmic big dick energy, if you want to say that.
I love that.
Which is an energetic, it's not a physical thing.
Of course.
Yeah, but it's like this penetrative power that you can, you know, king energy is it's true king energy, who is a steward of the land and those entrusted to his care, and he comes from a place of deep heart service and deep love, and he gives of his time and energy, and he's a righteous king and moves his sexual energy through his heart for the highest good for all.
I love that. And as you were just talking about that before we get into feminine energy, so I love that because this is something that I'm always looking to embody these last few years. And it's interesting, right? So the world that we live in, a lot of people would just say, what's your idea of what a man is? And what the world and society and culture and family would tell us is that, you know, a man is somebody that is really doesn't express his emotions, doesn't cry, and he's like macho and all this and not really in touch with his own feelings. Yet from my own experience and meeting many, many men in my journey these last couple of years that are divine kings, that are doing the most amazing things, not only in their business, but in their relationships. And what you just mentioned was so beautiful. It's that they come out of compassion, kindness, and they're emotionally in tune with themselves. And they're not just, you know, when like you use the word penetrative, what I thought about was they're ambitious and they're on a purpose on their life, and they're after things that's not only bringing joy and happiness and peace into their own life, but I believe as a collective, it's bringing love, joy, and peace to their circles, to you know, anybody that's around them, anybody that crosses their paths. Would you agree? That's kind of what you are also saying?
1,000,000%.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so now give us the feminine energy. And just, guys, I know you guys are listening to this and you've been listening to my podcast for a little while, so you do understand and you have the awareness now that, you know, feminine and masculine energies is, you know, it's just energies. We're not talking on gender level here. We're just talking that it's pure energies. And you guys have a little awareness on it, I believe, if you have listened to the, you know, my first, you know, 10, 15 episodes. But let me hear you kind of dive deep on what you think and you believe is feminine energy.
Thank you. So to me, the feminine is more the lunar side. It's more the waters and the deep oceanic waters of the unconscious. Whereas masculine is like the light of witness consciousness. The feminine, it is a lot of the mysteries of the unconscious, the dark and the deep. And the energetic to me is more magnetic. And it pulls and draws in a very passive way versus the active masculine, you know, and yeah, magnetic versus electric is really part of that. And surrender is such a huge piece of the feminine, but the feminine has so many wounds from history, family stuff, trauma stuff, our own, each of our own individual feminines, whether or not we're male identifying or female identifying or something else, it doesn't matter. We have our inner feminine have a lot of wounds and a lot of fear, and it's very difficult a lot of times for our inner feminine to surrender in the original blueprint of that feminine frequency, where she deeply wants to surrender and flow and be in this quantum flow of just being so present in the now and like receiving whatever electricity, whatever signals, whatever energy the penetrative masculine is giving her. And then she can weave with it, and she can dance with it, and she can sing with it, and she can move and just like bring through all the love.
She's like the word that was just coming to my mind as you were expressing those is like the word creation. Like she has the power to create with her energy and with her own, you know, vibrant just being. A divine feminine energy it's like creation, right?
Exactly.
And like what also coming to my mind right now is like, it's interesting, like, you know, a man and a woman will have sex, and the woman is the one that ends up creating that new life into the planet, right? So it's like, that's very powerful energy. And I just want to share something, like for me in these last 2-3 years, as I have, you know, really dive deep into understanding my own feminine energy. And one of the reasons why I got curious with this information is because I wanted to have better relationships. I wanted to have better relationship, not only with myself, but with my sisters and my mother and, you know, other women in my life, not only for the purpose of having an intimate relationship. I came from, Afghanistan. I had a very macho upbringing. So for me to, in my early 20s, I started discovering that, you know, feminine energy and masculine energy. And for me to understand women better, I got to understand my own feminine energy better. And these last 2-3 years, especially, one of the things that I've experienced that I had never experienced prior to this, and I'm 31 years old now, is that the feminine energy is so powerful. Is its ability to help you feel safe to do your own work. And that's something that has worked heavily for me. And I could dive so deep into this right now, but I'm curious to hear from you is, you know, there's guys that are listening to this podcast right now. Some of them might be still, you know, wanting to work out. They have the desire to become better. They have the desire to discover more of themselves. You know, they might still, you know, watch porn a couple of times a week. They might still work out, and they might still have things that they're not proud of in their life, but they can tell they have got to a point where, like, there's more to this and I want to discover it more. So what would your advice be to someone, you know, this man that's like feminine energy, sexual energy, masculine energy? What would your advice be to this gentleman to help them start on this path? Like, I usually could say, like, hey, journal your emotions, or, you know, meditate and spend time with yourself. But what I'm very curious is to hear your side and on how would you tell a man to start this journey that he's very curious about starting?
Come for a session with me.
We'll have links actually, you know, in the description after, so all the fellows, everyone that just listens to this podcast can definitely get in touch with you.
Perfect. But yeah, I would say the first things to do are to really begin to drop your consciousness into the body. And to deepen and elongate your breath and really allow the breath, the life force energy, prana, to enter into the lower abdomen. And puff out the abdomen in all directions, back and front, filling up your sacred bone, your sacrum, your tailbone, your pelvic floor. Seeing if you can fill up even your anus with the breath, the perineum. And just tuning in to where you are holding tension in any of these places. And we're not going to try to force the tension to release. We're not going to try to force relaxation, but we're going to breathe a bubble of presence, a bubble of awareness around any tight spots, any numb spots, spots you can't feel. And you're just going to be there and breathe and keep elongating the breath and see if you can make a longer exhale than an inhale. And if you're having trouble connecting with this part of your body, you can imagine that all of the thoughts you've been thinking today, all of the energy that's been up in the head realms and anywhere your threads of energy have been, you're going to call them all back to center point in the center of your mind, and you can condense them into like a lead ball. And then with the exhale, you can drop that lead ball right to the base of your being, right to your pelvic floor. And breathe into that space there. Breathe into where that lead ball is and begin to light it up. Begin to turn that lead ball into gold. Golden light with your awareness. And if you need some more help becoming aware of this power center of your being, you can begin to squeeze the anal sphincter muscle, the muscles of the anus that would stop your bathroom muscles.
Kegels, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And you can try just isolating the anus muscles, squeezing and releasing. You can try isolating the urethral muscles, the ones you would use to stop the flow of urine. Begin pumping that. You can also add some thrusts, some pelvic thrusts to bring more energy and awareness to this place. And you're really building up the life force energy, building up the awareness. And then you can place one hand over your heart and one hand over your lower abdomen. This space in between your hips is your energetic womb space. This is, every human being has a womb, whether it's physical or just etheric, energetic. In Eastern cultures, it's sometimes called the hara. And just presencing these two power centers of your being. And now see if you can breathe that awareness you've cultivated in your base. You're going to take a deep breath into that. And then you're going to send that energy through the out breath up into your heart. And breathe out of your heart. And then inhale through the heart, expanding the heart in all directions, back and front, getting into the intercostal muscles in between the ribs. And releasing the breath and sending it down to the genitals again. Deep inhalation in the genitals. You can imagine breathing up through the anus even with an open mouth, slightly open lips. You're sipping through a straw. Breathing, lighting up your lower regions, pulling that all the way up to the heart. And now breathing out of the heart, letting it go as if your heart is exhaling. Deep inhalation through the heart. And exhale down through the genitals, relaxing the genitals on the exhalation. So what you're doing here is you're weaving these two power centers of your being energetically back together. A lot of time we have a deep disconnect between these places. A lot of masculine beings have a deep disconnect. And we have a lot of layers over the heart, a lot of walls potentially. Okay. And for good reason, you know, a lot of us carry a lot of hurt and trauma, and we don't know how to feel through that. And so because we're not taught as children how to let ourselves fully feel something fully, you know, that energy of it gets lodged in our cells. We experience a lot of trauma, and then because we're animal beings, and if you notice other creatures when they experience a shock or a trauma or even a shift in energy, even if you like touch a dog and you know he'll like shake off after like, okay, I'm like resetting myself. And they know how to deal with shock and trauma that way. They move it through their system, they feel it fully, shake it off. And as kids, we're actually not empowered to do that. We throw tantrums and we often get in trouble, or we're like locked in a room, or, you know, we're told, little boys especially, like, don't be a pussy, don't be a little girl, like, don't get emotional. And so all of these things get lodged in ourselves, and it's like, it creates these kinks as if we're creating kinks in a garden hose. Okay. And so our power, our energy, our creativity, our flow state isn't able to come through us. Our spirit, our soul, we actually block the flow of our soul with these kinks. And so a basic practice is to start opening these channels and to start, a lot of those traumas actually sit in the lower regions, in our sex, in our lower abdominal, upper abdominal, in our digestive organs, in our anus and our ass, in our hips, in our thighs. And so when we start learning how to drop our consciousness down in there, it can start dislodging and start vibrating out some of these things. And so then we breathe that stuff up into our heart, we breathe that stuck energy, and we allow ourselves to finally start feeling what has been so stuck. And man, you might want to throw a temper tantrum. You might want to punch pillows. You might need to go and like chop wood, like with an axe, and scream. And like, if we would actually allow, or cry, you know, if we'd actually allow ourselves to feel it fully, these emotions can move through us in a matter of minutes or even seconds. And then once we allow ourselves to feel them fully, they get actually transformed and transmuted into something we might find less uncomfortable. We get so afraid to feel these really big emotions like grief, anger, despair, hatred, all this stuff. But if we could actually just fully let ourselves throw that tantrum, fully, whatever that looks like, breath, sound, movement, to move the energy, it actually brings us back into that zero still point, recalibration of ourselves. And that energy gets transformed into pure, that block gets transformed into pure potential quantum energy to be used as fuel for our creativity, for our expression, for our soul song, our soul mission, our service mission in the world.
That's amazing.
So opening these lines of communication is so important, and learning how to drop into the heart center. And I'd love to give you a tool for dropping into the heart center if you'd like.
Yes, please do.
Okay, so you can place your left, actually for Amyann, you can place your right hand on your heart. So the heart in a number of tantric traditions is considered the feminine polarity of a male-bodied person. Okay, so this is your magnetic polarity. This is your watery, lunar, receiving pole. And your cock is your solar, giving, expressive, penetrative, directed pole. Okay, so you see, and it creates this loop. And you can see our physical bodies even show us what is our giving pole and our receiving pole. For women, we have breasts here at the heart center. This is our giving polarity. This is our solar polarity. And our pussies are our receiving polarity. And so we have an opposite energy flow. Okay. And so putting your masculine hand, your giving hand, your right hand over your heart center, right in between your nipples, right in between your breastbones. This is your energetic heart center. Oh. And so just a heads up, I work shamanically. So I work multidimensionally. I'm a priestess, and sound codes may come through. I may channel different sound codes or things or messages that are coming through to support this work of your listeners tuning into their hearts. So don't be alarmed if I start making different sounds. Okay, so just breathing into this space right here.
Okay.
And we're going to move just as fast as your slowest parts.
Okay.
So your inner children, you know, the wounded inner child that gets afraid of change, that gets afraid of opening, that fears more hurt. And we're not going to ever move faster than those slowest parts are ready for. So we're creating a very safe container, and you are sovereign, and you can go just as shallow or as deep as you are ready for in this work. So just feeling the felt sense of the heart beating beneath your palm, that pulse. Tuning into the flow of the electromagnetic field that is created in this heart center. Did you know that your heart is made up of 40% neuron cells, neuron cell formations that are the same kind that are in your brain? Your heart is a conscious organ. It has its own way of knowing and understanding and interpreting the world and recording your experiences for you. And it is not a polar, it is not a dual organ. It is whole, whereas our brain has a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere, and so thinks in terms of duality. Okay? Good and bad, right and wrong, day and night, male and female. And the heart thinks only as one. So just breathing that message into your cells right now and reminding your cells of their truth, reminding your conscious mind of the truth of your heart as another mind within your being, with its own innate wisdom. And my favorite technique for awakening the heart and our connection to the heart is for us to imagine the person we have loved most unconditionally in this lifetime. We all usually have someone like that. For me, it's my sister. no matter what she does or says, I have infinite rivers of love that pour out for her and for my nephews. And when I feel them, when I feel their vibration, when I imagine them in front of me reaching out for a hug, I'd like you to do that now and imagine this person reaching out for a hug that you love unconditionally. I pay attention to my heart and I feel the shifts and changes. And I breathe into the shifts and changes and witness the changes and witness this frequency of unconditional love arising, moving, pulsing, waves back and forth of this love from my heart to this person. Some people have tears that arise, and people receive tingles, different bodily sensations, dizziness, pleasure, calm, peace. Just notice and observe the cellular sensation, the felt sense in your heart center. So when you've connected to this unconditional love, your heart is actually beating at a different frequency. It begins beating at the frequency of 528 hertz, which is the frequency measured as unconditional love. And it's one of the most healing frequencies, I would say the most known to humankind. It's been shown to repair DNA. And when we're in this field of love, you can also be in it by feeling grateful, by bringing in the frequency of gratitude for something in your life, perhaps for the earth herself, for our mother Gaia, who gives to us so endlessly, despite how we've treated her over the years, or for the sun, whose consistency and presence is unparalleled, whose nourishment is so needed. That gratitude for this moment. So that gratitude and that unconditional love create this coherent field between your brain, your head brain, and your heart mind. And this coherent field is what Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about as being able to reshape the nature of reality. You are now a conscious creator of your own reality, and you shape your reality by this vibration. You attract this feeling, this felt sense of love and gratitude. This vibration will come and meet you in the 3D. And you can also send this vibration, you can begin breathing this vibration through your body. And send it with your hands. You can send it down into your hands and begin touching yourself with this frequency of love, delicately, with utmost respect, with the kind of presence you have always desired in a lover. Can you touch yourself and presence yourself with that amount of love and gratitude? Can you send that healing frequency into places in your body that need it? Especially these lower regions, especially your genitals, especially your anus, your digestive organs, your hips. Can you massage yourself with this frequency?
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
A few thoughts that came to my mind as you were sharing that was, number one, for the listeners that listen to this process could end up, bringing a lot of things up for you. This situation, this practice, the couple practice that you just shared, the first one and the second one, this could bring up, if you might want to cry when you're listening to this and you're doing this practice, you might feel triggered and feel negative emotions. And I would suggest, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts as well there, Amyann, is I would say to feel all emotions that come during this practice. Don't suppress it. If you feel like crying, cry. If you feel like screaming, yelling, whatever it is, feel free to do it. And of course, anger or any of those feelings, express it in a healthy manner. So wherever you are, feel free to express it, and make sure you're expressing it in a healthy manner. What are your thoughts on that? If anything does come up, if someone is doing this practice, like how to go about it if these uncomfortable feelings come. Was I on point there? Like, express all feelings that come and welcome all feelings that come?
But though, oh, you're back. Says my internet connection is unstable.
Did you hear what I said?
I did, yes.
Okay, perfect.
Everything you said, I would completely agree with. And so the reason why you may be triggered right now and why some of these more quote unquote negative feelings are coming up, because you finally are in a safe enough space and your parasympathetic nervous system is able to kick in enough, which is the rest and reset response. You're finally in a moment where you're not in fight or flight. And Mohammed and I are creating a field, a frequency field, a container that is safe enough for you to drop into places that you haven't presenced before to this level. And those parts of you are bubbling up to the surface to be seen by the eyes and arms of unconditional love and acceptance. They want to just be seen and felt. It's like a wounded child. It's like a child that has skinned its knees or sprained its ankle, and it's wailing, and it's just like, please hold me, please see me, or a child who felt abandoned by a parent, it's like, it's just looking to be scooped up and held and rocked and to express and to be present in its expression. So just do that exact thing for whatever emotions, whatever felt energies are coming up for yourself. Presence them, be the witness to them, know that you don't have to drown in them. You can allow yourself to feel and move through them with breath, sound, and motion, and they don't have to drown you.
I love that. And I want to go back to, so the first one you shared, and I like to really get practical, and for the listeners as they're listening to this, what this would look like. So when you were doing that first exercise, so it could, from my understanding, and you could tell me if I'm right or wrong, so I would assume that if someone is doing this for the first time, it might take, a 20-minute practice consistently for, 30, 40 days for you to be able to truly in tune or get tuned or be able to get that calm and get that focus where you're able to have that awareness to, see that ball or anything like that, to be like, and this is just me assuming that it will take a little while to be able to get that good, or I might be wrong.
People who work with me, they get it immediately. Yeah, but so come work with me for real.
Yeah.
If you're working on your own, it may take you longer. So part of how this magic works, and it truly is magic, it's I'm part of an ancient lineage of feminine mysteries, and the way these mysteries are transmitted is through sympathetic vibration, is through entrainment and transmission, which means I have embodied a certain frequencies in my body and in my field. And it's like in physics, how there can be a still guitar string and there's a vibrating guitar string at a certain note and a certain frequency, and they come just in the vicinity of each other and they begin vibrating at the exact same notes and frequency, just in the vicinity of one another, because the waves going through the air, the ether. And so I have done years and years of work to be maintaining certain frequencies in my being. And so when you come into my field, when you come into Mohammed's field, we have certain frequencies that will act like a key that you've been looking for to unlock parts of yourself, to help you unkink those garden hoses. And so if you do choose to work with a tantric priestess like myself or someone else, or to go to someone who you feel your heart, your soul, your body is a big fuck yes to, like, I know I have to work with that person no matter what their title is, it's because they have these energetic keys for you. They've embodied something that you know your soul knows it's ready to start embodying, and they're key for you on your journey, on your path.
I love that. Finish what you were saying.
So it's just that these mysteries and this magic, this energetic entrainment really comes from being in the presence of someone who has embodied it, in the presence of a facilitator, guide, priestess, teacher, etc. And a lot of it comes through the voice as well, because these frequencies travel on the voice. And so I do a lot of work with vocalization, with sounding, with sound healing, singing, etc. And even the words that I speak, you can feel what is here.
I love that. And like, I'm the way I say it is, for yourself, when you said like I come someone that works with you and now they're able to do this much faster. And for the listeners, guys, I think one of the best ways to describe this and what she means is, so I'll share with you guys my experience. So in the last 2-3 years, as I've started to work with my feminine and masculine energy and doing the inner child work, ego work, shadow work individually, going through the process and, going through those days of where I'm crying every day and I'm processing it and going through these things. So one of the things that I experienced myself is that when you have access to a divine feminine who has done the work, and you can tell that they have done the work because you're able to feel safe in their presence. You're able to just express and lay your guard down and say everything and anything that was on your mind in their space, in their presence, or even as you're listening to this call right now, this podcast, and you just feel emotional and you want to get deeper and you want to sit down to this exercises. It's because the best way I say it is that when Amyann just said that she embodies it, because she has done the work. She has done the work and taken the time to, understand herself, understand her own sexual, feminine, and masculine energies. And as she has done the work and understand herself, and she has, let's say, for example, for me, my masculine was very wounded because I didn't have, many reasons for it. And when I was starting to do this work, I didn't have a safe, divine, feminine energy around that I could, use as the space to do this work. And I continue to just got deeper within myself to the point where my own feminine energy became that space where I could, get vulnerable with and do the work. So what I'm trying to say here right now is that you listen to this podcast and you want to get in touch, with your inner child and understand yourself better. And you may have even realized now, like, wow, I had a very traumatic childhood experiences. My dad was drunk. My mom was never around, or any circumstance that you may have dealt with. And all of a sudden you're listening to this call and this podcast and you just got emotional. And you're like, wow, I've never got emotional. I've never cried. Last time I cried was when Joe Cousin's uncle died, and I was very close to her. But like, I've never cried. Like, why am I crying right now? It's because you're feeling and you're in the presence of very safe energy. And I wouldn't say even only me. I think I would say Amyann's energy is very safe. And I'll share a personal story with you guys. So in the last 2-3 years, as I started doing this work and I started to realize that, like, wow, there, so much value in having a divine feminine woman in your life who has done the work, who can help you. And she's not doing anything. Just by her pure presence, she helps you be safe to drop down to those wounded parts of you, the inner child, and be open and willing to express it, to cry, to do the journaling, to get motivated to start journaling or anything like that. From my experience in the story that I want to share with you guys. So as I started this journey, this was about 2-3 years ago. And I remember, there was days that I would cry, and there was days that I was actually with a girl at the time, and she helped me feel very safe, I was dating her at the time, and I experienced divine feminine energy. And I remember while I was with her, I would remember times where I wouldn't feel safe with her, and it's like my inner child would react. And one of the only women in my life, someone that I have always felt safe in their energy, even though me and Amyann never, spend much time in our presence in a physical form. For me, I can truly say it on this podcast right now that the number one female in my life, the last 2-3 years, that I've always felt safe with is Amyann. And I don't even think she knows this. This is the first time I'm actually sharing this. And we have had many conversations. We have talked over the phone, FaceTimes, and had discussions about her programs and and everything that she's able to do to help me. For me, this is from pure experience, guys. Like, it was rare ever that I felt safe in a woman's presence all my life. And nothing against them. It was just that I wasn't that in tune with myself. And also on a surface level, I was very environmentally, family, society had influence on me, where I was only looking at women for one thing in my early 20s, where it was just sexual experiences. And I never really knew what other things a woman could do for me in my life. And so I was just this ambitious kid going after his goals and his dreams and thinking like that's the only goodness or thing that I could do with a woman, is like I have a sexual experience and there's nothing there. Last few years for me, I can truly tell you that, and I actually read this quote a long time ago. I don't know where I read it, but the true warriors back in the day were goddess worshippers. The true warriors back in the day were goddess worshippers. So there's a very interesting understanding and awareness here, because that a lot of us, as we're getting to this journey, we want to be a real man. We want to be strong and brave and do everything and anything that we can to be our most aware, wise self. And one of the things that we don't learn in society is that how you do that is by getting in touch with your own feminine energy. Second is that if you have safe space around you, women that can actually help you feel safe, it will help you do the work much faster. It will help you understand and heal much faster. And for me, as I finish this off, my thought here I was sharing with you guys in the story is Amyann has done the work. And I'm telling you guys, because of the experiences that I've had with her, by just simply in those moments where I was processing certain things on my journey, I was able to, and if I wasn't feeling safe with myself, I wasn't able to get deep within myself, I would always use her energetic space, her energetic awareness, or even just your presence. I would think and imagine that she is there with me, and I would feel safer, and I would, get back into tears, and I would get back into, the process of, processing the emotions that I was looking to do at the time. So just wanted to share that. I don't even know where I was going with that. I just want to share that because I think that's so true and it's so valuable for the listeners here, that if you did feel anything during this podcast, and you did these exercises and you felt emotional, this is real energy from a divine feminine that has done the work and can truly help. And you're actually experiencing it in the moment as these emotions are coming up for you. So first of all, I want to say also thank you for that, Amyann, because you have helped me so much. And this is also just to give you an idea of what working with her looks like. What does that mean when she said this a couple of times? It means that she is able to hold that space for you. She's able to create that space and get you to a place where you're able to process and integrate a lot of your wounds much faster than if you were going to do it with yourself. I just wanted to share those. This came out at the top of my head.
Beautiful. And I think, I think some people might be like, well, okay, that sounds like horrible. I have to feel through all these shitty things that I didn't feel before. Like, what do I get out of it? What's the juice here?
Yeah.
We're very goal oriented in our culture.
Yeah.
Like, better me. Well, first and foremost, the unconscious parts of us, these unconscious wounds or stuck energies that create these blocks, those things that we are not presencing, they're actually creating our reality from these unconscious places. So you might notice that there are certain patterns that start showing up in your life, let's say with relationships. And no matter if you stay in one relationship and try to work it out, it kind of keeps repeating itself. Or if you pop from relationship to relationship and you think, oh, this time it's going to be different. And then a few months in, a few years in, shit, here it comes again. Why is this coming up again? Or certain relational dynamics with colleagues, coworkers, friends, all these things that you're like, what? Why is this happening again? And I thought I'd been changing my mentality around this. What's going on? I've been doing my manifestations, whatever. It's because you're not presencing these underlying, underworld, unconscious parts of you that are literally vibrating these experiences into your life so that you finally look at what's here. Until you actually feel through what's here, you're going to continue to attract the same patterns, the same experiences from these wounded places. And it feels shitty. It's shitty to go through these things time and time again. So if you want to break the cycle, if you want to set yourself free, if you want to really reclaim yourself as a sovereign co-creator with source of your now reality, sovereign and conscious, rather than from 99% of our lives are created unconsciously these days. Do you want to really truly become the God King in the flesh, like the pharaohs of old? This is the type of stuff I do. I do initiations for these energetics. you want to create reality like a god, you got to do this work. You've got to go into the deep waters of the unconscious, which are your feminine. And, you know, part of the lineage I'm a part of is considered the mythic mermaids. It's a mermaid lineage. There are mermaid codes that come through because the mermaids, the sirens, are these mythic keepers of the underworld mysteries, of the under ocean mysteries. That are key to our power and our reclamation of our sovereignty. And yeah, so there's that. And then it's just like, it's about like you being in your true power again.
Yeah.
Taking back your crown, taking back your throne, and allowing can you imagine if you clear these blocks, the kind of world that you're going to be creating, the kind of emotional states, the kind of bliss body that you can awaken in yourself, the levels of ecstasy, pleasure, joy, peace, gratitude that you will create for yourself. It's unbelievable. And then in addition to like the phenomenal lover that you can become once you actually presence your wounded parts and you clear these blocks, the way energy is going to flow through you, the way you're going to anchor the divine masculine light, hold this light pillar. In Sanskrit, the word for penis is linga, which means pillar of light. The masculine being can become this entire pillar of light with this God King frequency. And I have been in the presence of a God King, a couple of them in my life, where I will literally they will be breathing and presencing me, and I will be erupting in orgasm after orgasm after orgasm, fully clothed, not touching, them sitting on the other ends of the room because of their pure, penetrative God force love. You want to learn to do that for women? You want to learn to make us wet without touching us just from your fucking breathing and your presence? Yeah, do this work. Like,
no, I love that. And thank you for sharing that, because that really resonated with me. And I wanted, as you were saying that, I was just thinking, I was like, you know, for the longest time, I was very sold on this manifestation of laws of attraction, and, you know, I'm positive, I'm happy, and like kind of these things. And I was in this journey myself. And then I discovered more, and I realized more. I went to a 10-day silent meditation retreat and a whole bunch of stuff that led me to realizing and understanding that this, you know, what the gurus out there sell you on, like the idea of being positive all the time, and the idea of like, you know, picture this thing and just, you know, continue manifesting it, and nothing wrong with any of these things. Yet from my experience, I have found that there was a lot of other things that was happening in me that I had to acknowledge. And those were, you know, certain feelings and emotional, negative emotions, uncomfortable emotions, experiences that I had experienced as a child. Those all came up. And, you know, you're listening to this podcast, you want to be an aware king, you want to, you know, manifest your $10,000 a month, have a divine goddess in your life, have the best sex of your life, have the best, you know, everything going on for you. And one of the best ways, the only way, is to get deep within yourself. Another way to word this is to understand and get to know yourself on a deeper level. And once you do start to get to know yourself on a deeper level, you start to understand that, oh, there's feminine energy within me and there's masculine energy within me. And what the world told me about the feminine things, and don't cry and don't show your emotion, don't express this, all of these things, all of those are lies. Actually, the most divine kings out there are fully expressive. They're fully have integrated all parts of themselves, the shadow self, the, you know, the things that they don't like about themselves. They have acknowledged. They have. Go ahead.
Can I interrupt for
a second? Of course.
Yeah. So, you know, something that a lot of men are uncomfortable with, I find, is their dark aspects. And I would call these dark aspects those things like the dark side of the moon, the nighttime aspects, or you could transpose the word primal over it. So the animal impulses of aggression, of wanting to kill, to destroy, to protect, like to be that warrior, but also those rape impulses, that impulse in you that you want to take and and penetrate something without just like violently, you know, to violently fuck. And those things, I mean, we look at the world and we're like, whoa, like, look at the way we're raping, pillaging, destroying the planet. Like, those energies seem so wrong or bad or whatever. I believe we're doing what we're doing to the planet partially because we have repressed these primal urges in such an extreme way. We've made them taboo, and we forget how to make safe containers for these energies to be expressed. Some of the best sex, no, hands down, the best sex of my life has been when my tantric partner has anchored his primal, his dark so fully, and he's running his energy, he's running his sexual energy through his heart, and he's breathing in through his heart. And it's so purely love, but then he goes into that aggression in the bedroom. He goes into that, like the bull, like, or the wolf, or the Serenanus, like the horned god energy, wild man energy. And it feels rapey as fuck, but it's like, holy shit, the amount, if that love is there, like the way my being can surrender into that, it's like I've passed out in pleasure. I have been screaming, crying, like for convulsions of pleasure over and over and over again, because a man has finally reclaimed his dark, and he's found a way to healthfully express it, and he's not suppressing it, he's not repressing it, he's loving it, he's seen it, he's loved it into wholeness, he's grieved for the damage that it's caused when he hasn't loved it, when he's judged it, when the world has judged him. He has loved it back into wholeness.
Love all parts of yourself, something I share and I say a lot, and that's, my own personal journey. One of the, the best sex, best relationships, the best everything that's happened for me in the last 18 months is by really learning to express all emotions, by learning to love all parts of myself. And that was a very interesting journey. So as you're listening to this podcast and you are, listening to this, you're like, and the thoughts come to your head where like, I don't like this, and I don't like this about myself. It's okay to understand and know those things. It's okay to be like, okay, I don't like this and this about myself, but it should come out of a place of compassion and love and understanding, sitting down and doing the work in a sense of like, I don't like when I feel insecure and when I sleep with someone. I don't like when I'm this or that. And I think it's okay to have these feelings. It's okay to have these thoughts. But the thing most men, and I did probably in my early 20s, was that I beat myself up on these things. Like, why am I feeling this? It's not okay. I am just not good enough. I'm not worthy, and all these things.
And that kinks the energy too.
Right, the kinks. And I started to really get better, get more aware, get more joyful, peaceful in my life, is when I started to acknowledge all these things, acknowledge my own insecurities, acknowledge the things that I didn't like about myself.
And to actually not just acknowledge, but to own them, like to accept them, to be like, I see you as you are. I accept that you are this way right now. I'm not trying to change you. Like, I want to be better, but right now I see this is where I'm at. And I just like open the arm. This is like divine mama's love of unconditional acceptance. It is as it is. The word Isis, who is like the Egyptian goddess from the lineage that I am initiated into.
Okay.
She's Isis mysteries, these ancient sex magic mysteries. In the English form of her word, Isis, it's encoded this mantra. It is as it is. It is as it is. It is as it is. And it's only when we can send the love and acceptance to these parts of us that we have previously judged that we free up the energy to come back into divine alignment. Any distortions, any disruptions, any of the miscreations that we have done as forgetting our alignment with our souls, missing the mark of our soul's purpose, or like, of the highest good for all, living selfishly, living egotistically. It's only when we can love those parts and accept them as they are that they find the freedom to find their alignment once more, and to actually move into something that looks a little different potentially.
No, I love that. And I wanted to something just came to my mind. I was someone listening to this podcast, and we were just talking about this earlier on, why would someone want to do this? Or why would someone, these uncomfortable feelings come, the triggers and the cries and the tears come, and they're like, well, I don't want to get into the garbage bag in a sense, or I don't want to feel those things. And I've had men in my life where they're like, forget about it. Forget about it. That was their approach to, it's like, no, these are your emotions. These are things that are coming up. You can't forget about it. So I want to share on why somebody would want to do this work. And of course, a lot of these listeners that are listening to my podcast are actually very well aware, have an understanding of why they want to do this work, because, they can see that a lot of this man that they look up to is, somebody that's embodied these emotions, as, is in touch with his feminine energy and all these things. But I'll share just personal story, and let's focus on women actually. So for me, my relationships, sexually, mentally, physically, emotionally, I've got 10,000 times better since I have done the work and got in tune with my own emotions. I never used to have conversations with a lover. I never used to dive deep with a lover, not just physically or sexually, but like emotionally. The ability to actually hold space for a woman, and she is able to surround her fully and give all of her to you. It's the most magical, the most powerful feeling in the world. And I'm telling you guys this from personal experience. And I never experienced this in my early 20s, low surface relationships and, casual sex with, I wasn't even mentally there, to where these days in the last 18 to 24 months, my relationships with the feminine has got so much better. And I actually, just thinking of an experience I had with a woman almost like, about 9 to 10 months ago, and we were just sitting there with each other, and she started just touching me on my arms. And this is around the time I'd already done some work on understanding, transmuting my sexual energy, not only from my genitals, bringing it up to my heart, being able to do self-love sessions with myself, to where feeling love and the same good, amazing feelings that I feel in my penis, touching my arms and touching my chest and touching my neck, just feels just as orgasmic. And then I remember sitting with this woman, and she was touching me, and just, we were just casually talking, and she was touching me. And I remember it was the most profound feeling ever. And that was one of those moments where I actually experienced like pleasure. And I also experienced pleasure in a way of like, wow, I was like so proud of myself for doing the work that I had done these last couple of years of just understanding myself better. Because as you understand yourself better, feminine and masculine energy, you start to understand the feminine better, because the feminine energy and the masculine energy are the same thing. It doesn't have to do with gender. So just a personal experience I want to share with you as you're listening to this podcast on why you want to, get curious and intrigued on doing this work and processing and understanding your emotions and accepting and loving all parts of yourself, is that it leads to, your purpose. It leads to good relationships. It leads to good friendships. It leads to just the most magical things that you can ever experience. And it's all there within you. You just have to be willing to dive deep within yourself. And
presence yourself, because I think so many of us, we feel incomplete. And we feel we go looking outside ourselves for something that's going to complete us. But the great paradox of it all is that if we would actually presence ourselves the way we're aching for another to presence us, if we could learn to give ourselves the love that we feel like we can give to others, and sometimes we feel bitter about how much love we give and we don't have it received, if we could turn that love on ourselves, we could touch ourselves the way Muhammad is talking about. He created an energetic entrainment in his body for what his body is now manifesting. The kind of presence from a woman he has given himself. He will never attract a woman who is not able to give him that level of presence anymore. If he continues to presence himself this way, if he continues to go to the depths of his unconscious this way and to have these deep conversations with himself and feel his emotions, he will never attract a woman who cannot meet him there. We will only ever be able to attract another, whether in friendship, whether in romantic partnership, to the depths at which we have met ourselves.
That's so true. And that's a matchup right there, guys. It's been almost over an hour. So like, just even having this conversation, I'm usually already like, by the hour is done, I'm pretty much ready to close out the podcast. But like, I want to talk even more. Like, I didn't even get into Tantra. There's so many other things that I actually want to talk with you. And we're going.
Tantric. Everything we're talking about is Tantra. It's all the weaving. It's all the divine inner union. That is what Tantra is.
It's
divine inner union.
It's a dance.
Oh my God. You remembering that there is no separation between you and God. And you are worthy of all the love in the universe. You are worthy of God's love, of the feminine's love, of the divine masculine's love in this moment, just as you are. You are entirely worthy. And the only thing you have to do is learn to surrender and let go of a little more resistance. And that love is going to bowl you over. It's going to change your life. And it's going to help you remove those layers of snakeskin, those masks that have been on there telling you that you don't deserve the love, those programs that we run from culture, from our families, from our ancestral lines that tell us that we are unworthy of divine union. We're unworthy of experiencing heaven on earth. It's time for those to go. It's time to let go of those. That is not the truth of who you are and what you came here to do and to just be.
I love that. What she just mentioned actually about Tantra is everything that she shared really is Tantra. And for me, I want to even have more conversations, more discussions on this topic in a sense of just to dive deeper. Like even my own mind is curious right now. So we'll definitely be making some more things happen between me and Amyann, because I just believe I feel good just doing this podcast. So guys, well, first of all, Amyann, where can everyone find you? Let everyone know where they can find you as we close this podcast out.
Amazing. So you can find me on Instagram at _AMYANN. So @ my name, Amyann.
Okay.
Birth name. And you can find me on the web. I'm going to be changing my web address and hopefully changing it to Amyann, AMYANN.ca. But right now it's still www.goddess, but god-dess.ca. So goddess.ca with a dash in the middle of goddess.
Awesome. Sounds good. So those details will be in the description, guys, as you listen to this podcast. In the details section, I will have our Instagram, I'll have our website. And as we finish out this podcast, my intentions are for you, like I always say, as you're listening to this podcast, is to, for entertainment purposes. And at the same time, I hope that you're taking things away and using them in your life, actually implementing it in your life. You just spent about an hour listening to this. That's an hour of your precious time. So that's my intentions are for you to take this information and ask yourself, how can I use this information in my life to become my most aware self, to become the most divine human being I can be on this planet, to not only love myself, to not only give, my own, make my own dreams come true, but to help others in my circle. Overall, collectively, how can I truly help them? So my intentions are for you to take something away from this and start implementing in your daily life. And Amyann, thank you so much for jumping on. I look forward to many, many more conversations with you. And stay an aware alpha.